Hi everyone. We will wait 2 more minutes for other participants to join. Hi everyone. Welcome to another session of this internship program. I am Khushi Vadwa, working with programmers.io for more than 2 years. Now let's start. So today is session 2 of one of the widely used concepts on IBM, that is subfiles. Let's talk about the agenda of this session. Firstly, we will extend our knowledge about types of subfile by learning two new types of subfile, that are single page subfiles and window subfiles. So in last session, you all learned about loadable and expandable subfiles. So today we are going to learn these new two types of subfiles. After that, we will discuss some interesting features available while working with subfiles, like how to update multiple records at a time, working with SFLFOLD keyword, and at last we will see how to handle session or device errors. Let's begin by understanding about single page subfile. So, as the name suggests, single page subfiles involve loading of one page of data at a time. This means every time before writing records to the subfile buffer equal to the subfile page, we will clear the buffer first. Here, as you all know from the previous session, buffer means the SFL record format of the subfile in which we display any particular data in a tabular format. Also, in case of single page subfile, SFL page keyword value should be equal to the SFL size keyword. Here, SFL page denotes the number of records to be loaded on one subfile page, and SFL size denotes the total maximum number of records that can be loaded. And one last important point to notice is that we have to handle page up and page down functionality through the RPGLE program. Now let me go to my IBM server to show you all how to work with single page subfiles. So there is one display file user details 2 that I have created, which has single page subfile. So I am taking option 17 on it to work with this display file using SDA. So here you all can see I have created one subfile with SFL record format name as D1 SFL and control record format name as D1 CTL. Now let me take option 12 to show you all how this subfile looks. So these are the details being populated. Firstly, we are having user ID, username, state, and the status which can be either active or inactive. Then moving ahead, we have one record format which is a display file record format only. If I take option 12, so it is showing us the header information. So we have all the required header information like user management system. Moving ahead, we have one footer display record as well. If I take option 12 on it, here at the bottom, the footer information for handling the exit is being written. Now, let me take option 8 on the SFL CTL record format to show you all the required keywords that we have to define while we are designing this subfile. Okay, so first are these general keyword. As you all learned from the previous session, there are some important keywords which are mandatory to define while we are designing subfiles. So similarly, as was in the case of loadable and expandable subfile, we have to define these keywords in single page subfile as well. So these keywords are firstly SFL DSP, which handles displaying the subfile record. Then we have SFL DSP CTL, which handles displaying the subfile control record. And then we have SFL Clear, which handles clearing the subfile. And at the end, I have SFL End. So this is used to denote we have reached the end of our subfile or not. So I am using the parameter star more. So what will happen if we haven't reached the end of the subfile? So star more text will be visible. Otherwise, if I have reached the bottom, then the text bottom will be visible on our subfile. So I have given these indicator values which we are going to use to handle in our RPGLE program. Moving ahead, next important keywords are SFL size and SFL page. And as discussed, in case of single page subfile, we have to keep the value of both these keywords as equal. So I am giving 4, which means 4 records will be loaded inside our SFL buffer. Okay. Now there are some more keywords that I have defined. So firstly are these indicator keywords to handle the exit using F3 function key and cancel using the F12 function key. Then I have defined the overlay keyword. So what this keyword will do, since we have the header record format, our sub file and the footer to be displayed together to the user, we are using this keyword. So what will happen? All the screens will be overlaid and the user will be able to see all them together. Okay, now let me come out of this display file. And now I am taking option 5. So what will this option 5 will do if I press enter? This option 5 will help me to view the source code of this display file. So while we took option 17, while we were designing this display file with the help of SDA, the SDA created this whole source code automatically. So once we compiled the object, this code was created automatically. So let's see what is inside it. So firstly, there are some file level keywords. There are these 3 keywords to pay attention. First is Indara. This keyword will basically help us to define the indicator DS in our RPGLE program. So the RPGLE program that we will use to process this subfile, in that we are going to define one DS, indicator DS. So to define that, we are using this keyword over here and we will discuss about indicator DS once we see the RPGLE program. Next are these 2 keywords, page down and page up. So as we discussed in our presentation earlier, like for the single page sub file, if the user is pressing page down, so we have to handle that, and if he is pressing page up, we have to handle that as well. So what will happen, the when the user will press page down, this indicator 60 that I have defined will be turning on, and when the user will press page up key, then this indicator 61 will be on. Okay, then we have the header record format, which is having all the header information we defined. Then we have the D1 SFL, which is the SFL buffer record format. And here we can see all the fields which will handle and store the user details are defined. So I have prefixed it with D1. So these fields will be carrying the user ID, username, state, and status. And next is D1 CTL. It is the SFL CTL record format. And we can see all the keywords that we defined with taking option 8 are here being defined automatically. We have SFL size as well and SFL page as well. And at the end, we have the footer record format. So that's how we will design a single page subfile. Now, firstly, let me query the file. Okay. So this is So this is a physical file basically that is storing user information. It is storing 6 user records as we all can see. So in this session, we will see multiple examples. All these examples will be using this file. And we can see we are having the user ID details, user name, user state, email. Then we have address and user status. Okay. Now let's move on with our RPGLE program. So firstly, let me call this the program, which is this user details R2, to show you all first how the output will look like. So I've called this program. It is a single page subfile. So we can see all the user details are being loaded from our physical file and is being displayed over here to the user. So we are having all the header information, all the footer information, and the user details. So we can see we gave the SFL pages 4. That is why 4 records are loaded first. Then I'm pressing page down key, and now the other 2 records are visible. Now let me take option 5 and show you all the source code. Okay. So firstly, I have defined my physical file, and then I have defined my display file using the workstation keyword. And in that I have the sub file, which is the single page sub file. So I've defined it using the S file keyword. And inside that I have used this standalone variable RRN hash. So this variable is going to handle my RRN value inside this program. And then comes the indicator DS. So we discussed earlier why we need Indara keyword in our display file. So we have defined Indara keyword. Now we can use this indicator DS inside our RPGLE program. So I have used the INDDS keyword, and inside that I have given the DS name, which is INDDS1. So now what this DS will do, INDDS1. So this DS will basically help us to rename the indicators that we have defined. So we have defined one indicator value 03, which is for function key 3, right? And it is going to do the job of exiting from the program. So what I have done, I have used the name exit. This subfield I have defined inside this INDDS1. So what this will do, it will help me to rename the 03 indicator to exit. So in this program, in place of writing IN03 while working with this indicator, now I can write this subfield name exit. So what basically this will help me to do? It will help me to increase the readability of this program. Like I can search over here and see where this exit indicator is used, and I will be able to know that okay, the job of this indicator is to exit from this program. So I have defined all the indicators in this INDDS1. Then there are some standalone variables. And now comes the main logic of the program. So as you all know from previous session as well, that to process any subfile, we have to follow three steps. First is clearing the subfile. Second is loading the subfile. And third is displaying it. So I am doing the same in case of single page subfile as well. So firstly, I am calling this subroutine clear user detail. What it will do, it will clear the subfile. So once the subfile is cleared, what will happen? We are going to set the pointer to the lowest record of our physical file. So this file contains all the user information. So we are setting the pointer to the lowest record of this file, and then we are going to load this subfile. So in this load subroutine, we are going to load the user details from our physical file into our subfile. So if we go inside this load user detail, we can see firstly we have already set the pointer to the lowest record. Now we have started reading this file inside this subroutine. We have used the read opcode to read this file, and then we are running this loop which will run until we have reached the end of this file which we are reading. So what will happen inside this loop? We are going to load the user details from a physical file fields to our subfile fields. So these fields prefixed with d1 are my subfile fields. So we are loading the data inside it. Now we are incrementing the RRN inside this loop, and this one condition is required while we are working with single page subfile, that if my RRN value is 1, what we are going to do? We will populate the user ID inside this variable first record. So this is one thing we have to do. And then we will write our subfile buffer record format. And then we have one more condition here, like if our RRN value is equals to SFL page. So the SFL page value we defined in our display file was 4. So the moment our RRN value will reach 4, we will come out of this loop with the help of leave opcode. And then we are again reading this file inside the loop. So once our loop will end, then this condition will be called, which checks if we have reached the end of our file or not, which means we have loaded all the 6 records from our physical file or not. So if we have loaded all the files, we have reached the end of this file, and then what we will do, we will turn off the SFL end indicator. So what this end indicator will help us to do? It will help us to display the text bottom and not star more, because we have reached the end of file. So that is the whole process that will run inside this load subroutine. So after this load subroutine will be called, then this display subroutine will be called next. Let's see what is happening inside it. Okay, so now what we will do, we will just simply display our subfile. So for that, we are running it inside this loop until exit is on. Until exit is not on. So what will happen? We will be turning on our indicators that are required. Firstly is the SFL DSP indicator, and next is the SFL DSP CTL indicator. So both will be turned on. Then this is one important condition which help us to handle the session or device errors. So we will discuss about this condition in our further in this session. Okay, so after checking this condition, we will write the header, we will write the footer, and then we will display our subfile using exfmt keyword. And then we are going to do the page handling using this subroutine handle paging, which now let me put this program to debug and show you all the entire flow of the program. So I'm putting the breakpoint at first source line, and I'm calling the program. Okay, so firstly a clear subroutine will be called. So inside it, as you all know, as was in case of other subfiles, in single page subfile as well, we clear the subfile by turning on our clear indicator. Then we have to put the RRN value equals to 0. Then we have to write our subfile control record format, and then our subfile control record format has been written. So the subfile is clear now. So now we are turning off our clear indicator. Then we are setting the pointer at the lowest record of our physical file, and then this load subroutine will be called. So firstly we will read our file and this loop will run. So now it will start populating value into our subfile fields. So if I check right now by doing F11, the user ID is 1. So now we are reading the first record from our file, and our RRN value is what? It is also 1. Now this condition will run, and since our RNN value is 1, we will populate it inside our first record variable. Now we will write the subfile buffer, and now we will read our file again. So now what will happen? It will load our second record. Okay. Now we have written second record, and now we are writing the third record. And now the user ID is 4. So we have written 4 records so far. And now we just came out of the loop. So as now let's check the RRN value. So what it is 4. So since our SFL page is 4, we have written the 4 records. Now we are checking if we have reached the end of file. So that is not the case. So our end indicator will be off. And now the loading process is done. Now we will call the display subroutine. It will turn on the required indicators and will display the subfile. So now our subfile is visible to the user. Now comes the paging, handling the paging functionality. So for example, now I am pressing the page down key. So let's see how program will handle it. So I have this subroutine handle paging. So in this, we have this condition to check either the user has pressed page down key, or he has pressed the page up key. So let's check the page down indicator. It is on, which means I have pressed page down key right now. So it will, the logic will go inside this condition and check if our end indicator is on or not. So it is not, it is off right now. So it will, what it will do, it will clear our subfile and it will load our subfile again. So this clear subroutine will be called again. Now our subfile is clear. And now we will start loading our subfile again. So it is reading our physical file now, and let's see what records are now being loaded. So now it is reading from user ID 5. So earlier we loaded 4 records. Now it has started reading from user ID 5. So it will load this record first. It will go inside the loop, and it will also load the sixth record with user ID 6. So now we are coming out of the loop and we are checking if end of indicator is on or not. So yes, we have reached the end of our file. So now we are turning off our end indicator. And now simply the logic will go back and display our subfile. So our subfile is now visible, but with the further records with user ID 5 and 6. So this is how page down handling will be done. Now I am pressing page up key. So now we will again call this handle paging subroutine, and it will check for the indicators, and now our page up indicator is on. So what will happen? Firstly, we will set the pointer to the record equal to this first record. So let's see what it is. It is 5. So our pointer in this file, the physical file, will be set to the user ID 5. Now, once the pointer is set, we will be running this for loop, which is starting from 1 and running till SFL page plus 1. So our SFL page is 4. So it will be running for 5 times. So what we are doing right now, we are reading the file in reverse using the read p opcode inside this for loop. And we are checking if we have reached the end of our file or not, because if we have, then we should just come out of this loop. That is why this condition is added. So now we are just in reverse order, we are reading our file, and we will be reading it till we have reached the end of our file. So now we have reached, so now only we will be coming out of our loop. And now once this is done, the process will repeat. We are going to clear our subfile and we are going to load it again. So let me just come out of this subroutine, load subroutine. So our data is loaded now. So now again, the program will display the subfile. So now we can see the subfile is visible, but we press page up key. So now the previous page is now visible with with user ID from 1 to 4. So now I'm pressing F3. This is basically the entire process of working with single page subfiles. Now let me go back to my presentation. Okay. Next is Windows subfile. This is pretty simple. It is a type of subfile that displays any particular data in a tabular format enclosed in a window dimension. So it is mainly helpful to prompt users about information, like it can be used to show the list of states, status, departments, etc. And like subfiles have SFL and CTL record formats, Window SFL has Window subfile record and Window record format. Now let's see how to practically implement it. So going back to my IBM server. Okay, so I have created this display file user details D1, which is having the Windows subfile. So taking option 17 on it. And these are the three records required while we are creating the Windows subfile. First is the Window SFL record format. Second is Window control record format. And third is just to show the footer information. So if I take option 12, this is how this window look like. So first I have defined the dimensions that I want for this window. Then I have defined some static content inside my window SFL CTL record format. This is the static content. And then in my window SFL record format, I have defined these two fields, option and state. So this window will help me to load all the state information. Now let me also show the footer. So the footer is pretty much simple. I am using it to show the F12 function key. Now let me take option 8 on the control record format to show all the keywords required. So first is this general keyword. So for in case of window, there are some keywords that we can define. Like right now, my window border is pretty much simple, but we can also modify it by using this window border. We can choose the color we want or the design we want in our window. Then there are some more record level keywords that are same only as in case of single page subfile. And then are these the general keywords which include the important keywords that we use. So Windows subfile is just another type of subfile only. So that is why we have to define these important keywords. So the SFL DSP, SFL DSP CTL, SFL clear and SFL end. So I've defined all these with this by giving some indicator value to them. And then I have defined the SFL size and SFL page as well. So SFL page is 5. So on a single page, 5 records will be loaded. Okay. Now let me take option 8 on the footer as well. So for this window, let me take option Y on the window parameters. So this is where we can define the parameters and the dimension for that we want for our window. So we can see we have these values defined. So what are these values? These help us to define the dimension of my window. Like what is going to be the start line, how many lines are going to be in my window, what are going to be the positions. Now the question comes is how I will be able to know which value I have to enter. So we all can see at the bottom there are these two values defined, 13, 50. So what are these values? These are nothing but the cursor position. So if I put my cursor somewhere over here, so we can see it is 10, 18. So it is the 10th, my cursor is at the 10th row and 18th column. So from here we can, decide how we want our window dimensions. Okay. So this is how we will be designing our window subfile. Now let me take option 5 to view its source, and let me go to the window record format. Here it is. So here is firstly the window SFL. So it is having the option and the state field. Then comes a window CTL, and here we are having all the keywords. Here one important thing that I want to mention is we have this keyword window that stores the dimension what we want for this window subfile. So on window CTL we have this keyword, and on the window footer also we have this keyword. So we can see on the footer I have defined all the dimensions, what are going to be the start line, number of lines. So since our SFL footer is a different record and our subfile, Windows subfile is a different record, we have to make sure both are having same dimension. So here I am using one referencing concept, that in place of mentioning the window SFL with the dimensions, I am just directly referencing it with my footer. So inside my window keyword, I am using the D3 footer, which is the name of my footer record format. So now what will happen? Both records will have same dimensions. So that is one important referencing concept that we have to apply in Windows Subfile. Now let me call the program and show you all the output. So this is the program user details R1 that I'm using for Windows Subfile. So I'm calling it. So this subfile is firstly is used for user management system. So it has the user details, and we have the option field to either edit the user details or to display it. So let me take option 2, and now we can see this screen is to edit the user information. We are having all the user details, and at the bottom we have F12 and also F4, which is for prompt. So let me do F4. So here we can see the window that I just showed is visible over here to the user. It is having the state details, and we can see the footer also is visible. So now let me take this program to debug and show how this window subfile will be loaded. Okay. So firstly, a window will be displayed using the clear load and display processes. So I'm just directly going to display this subfile first. Our subfile is displayed. Now I'll take the option 2 to edit it. So it will go inside the process to handle the option field. And I have taken option 2, so it will call the subroutine to display the edit information screen inside this edit user subroutine. So now it is loading the screen and it is displayed. Now I'm doing F4, which is for loading my Windows subfile. Okay, so if my prompt is on, it will go inside this condition, and we can see we are again having the same process for loading and displaying my subfile. It will clear my Windows subfile first, it will load the data and will display the same. So there is nothing new in the process that we follow for displaying the Windows subfile as well. So I'm directly going to put the breakpoint at this display state detail. subroutine. It will turn on all the required indicators and display the window subfile. So here one more functionality. For example, if I press X to select any state and press enter, so this program will check first if we have changed any record or not with the help of read C opcode. And if we have done, there is one condition to check if the option field is X or not. So yes, it is X as we took for Andhra Pradesh state. So what it will do, it will populate that in my edit information screen field. So now my edit information screen field is having state Andhra Pradesh that I selected. So now what will happen? We will just go, this program flow will just go back and display the edit user info, and the state field is going to be Andhra Pradesh. Now I'm just exiting from this program, ending the debug. And this is the complete process for displaying the Windows subfile. Now let me go back to the presentation and start with the next concept, which is updating multiple records at a time. So adding this feature, we can update multiple records at a time on the subfile. So this feature will basically help to enhance the user experience. So mainly this property can be handled using the RPGLE program, using the readc opcode, or also by applying the SFL next change in a loop. So readc opcode helps to read the record which is changed by the user. Now let me show you all one example that I've created which allows the user to update multiple records at a time on the subfile. Okay. Firstly, we will talk about the readc process. So there is nothing to be changed in our display file. So I'm calling the program. So here we have applied the multiple update functionality. So for example, here we have two options to do. First to edit and then to display. Now what if user want to use both these functionalities together? So we can also do that. So we can take option 2 to edit on my user ID 1 and option 5 on my user ID 4. Now if I press enter, what will happen? Firstly, my edit user info screen will be visible. Now here we can do all the operations we want to do. And then the moment I'll press F12, now my second functionality will be displayed to the user, which is which is the option to view the user info. And we took it for user ID 4, so user ID 4 information is visible. Now if I'll do F12, now we will come back to our main subfile. So this is one of the functionality. Now let me take this program to debug and show how this multiple functionality will work. Firstly, our subfile will be displayed. Now we will take option 2 and option 5 together. We'll press enter. So firstly, the program is checking if our exit indicator is on or off. We should process with our options only if the exit indicator is off. Otherwise, we should just come out of the program. That is why we are checking this condition. Then we will call the process OPT subroutine. So in this, we are firstly checking if our RRN value is greater than 0. What it means is that we have some records to be processed. If our RRN is 0, then there are no records to be processed in the subfile. That is why adding this condition is important. Then I am using readc opcode to read the records that are changed on this subfile. Now this loop will be running, and firstly I am turning off one indicator on my option field, and now I'm checking what is my option field value. So firstly we took option 2, so the D1 OPT value is 2. So our edit user subroutine will be called and it will display our edit screen. So I will put the breakpoint on the exfmt and do F10. So our edit user info screen is visible. Now I'm pressing F12. So if F12 is on, we will just leave from this loop and and leave from this edit user screen. And what we will do, firstly we will clear the D1 OPT. D1 OPT firstly was having option 2, so we cleared it, and now we are reading the subfile again using read C. And now if I check, my D1 OPT is 5, so it will now display the view user screen. Doing F10, so view user screen is visible. Now I'll do F12. We will leave from this screen as well. Now we will again read the sub file, and now there are no further records that are changed, so we will just come out of it. So this is basically how uh, updating multiple records at a time work. So this is about read C. Now there is one more concept of SFL next change. So let me show how what is the need of firstly applying SFL next change. So if I call this program again and type any invalid option, and I'm now pressing enter. So now we can see we only took option 1 on the first field, but the reverse image indicator is on for all the option fields. This is because read C opcode can only read the change record once. But the moment we change that particular record only more than once, then it won't be able to read that. So that job is done by the SFL exchange. So this program user details 5 is having the SFL exchange functionality. If I call it and take option 1, here we can see that issue is not occurring. It is only showing the reverse image for that option field with user ID 1 only. So for SFL next change, the process is pretty much simple. Firstly, inside my display file, we have to go to our SFL record format, SFL buffer, and define this SFL exchange keyword with the any particular indicator value. So I've given 70. And to handle the reverse image of my option field, I'm using the indicator 71. So these two things I have added inside my display file. And then my program is using this functionality. So if I go inside my program and go back to my read C functionality that we just saw in the debug. So here is how we are reading our subfile using read C opcode that we just saw. So here there are some slight changes that we have to do to apply the SFL exchange concept. So firstly, this is my reverse image indicator for the option field. I am turning it off at the start of my do while loop. So every time we will enter inside this loop, firstly this indicator will be turning off. Then at the other condition we can see if it is an invalid option, I am displaying the error message and also turning on this reverse image indicator. This is the other change. And at the bottom, we can see comes the use of SFL next change indicator. So we are just turning it on. And then we are using this update opcode to update my subfile. And then we are just reading it again for the records that are changed using the read C opcode. So this is the slight change we have to do to apply the SFL exchange concept. Rest everything is same, like reading it inside a loop using the read C opcode to find out the records which are changed. We just have to apply the concept of SFL exchange also. Okay, now let's move ahead. So the next feature is that we will discuss now is the SFLFOLD keyword. So it is a record level keyword that is used to display the subfile in a folded form. Once folded, we can unfold the subfile as well using this keyword only. So suppose in the previous example of employee management system, apart from user ID, name, state, and status, you want to display employee email as well in the subfile, but there was no space left to add any further user information, right? So to solve this problem, we can make use of this SFL fold keyword. Let me show you all how. So firstly, this is a record level keyword, so we have to firstly do the change in our subfile. So this is my subfile user details D3, which is having this keyword. So if I take option 8 on my main subfile, which is having the user details, we can see I have defined the SFLFOLD keyword, and I have given one function key F9 to handle the folding and unfolding of the subfile. Now let me take option 12 to show how the subfile is looking. So earlier we had the user ID, name, state and status field only. I have added the email field also. And so now what is happening? One user record is occupying 2 lines of my subfile. But there is this keyword basically help us to understand that there is no limitation on subfile that we can have only 4 or 5 columns only. We can extend it further as well by making use of this keyword. Now let me come out of the display file. So we have added the SFL fold keyword. Now let me call the program. So I'm calling the program. So here we can see the email information is also visible. At the bottom we can see I have this function key F9 to fold or unfold it. So if I'll do F9, my subfile is now folded. I'll do F9 again. So my subfile is unfolded. So this is how we can, add as many columns we want in our subfile. Okay. Moving ahead. Now let's discuss the last topic for today, which is handling the session or device errors. So if you're working with subfiles, getting session or device error is really common. So here I have mentioned some of the common reasons to get this error. First is displaying an empty subfile when our SFLDS indicator is on, which means there are no records to be loaded in the buffer, but we are trying to display the subfile. So in that scenario, there will be a situation where you will encounter this error. Second is defining wrong indicator value for the subfile keyword in your RPGLE program. This mainly happens when we make use of the indicator DS. And last is when we try to load more than 999 records in the load all subfile. This is because load all subfile can load maximum of 9999 records only. So basically these are some common errors. However, session or device error can occur for many reasons. But we will discuss about how these common errors can exist and how we can resolve them as well. Let me go to the IBM server and show you all one program. So this is one program. I am going to call it. Now we can see it is the user management system only. But this subfile is empty. There are no records in the buffer. But just now we discussed that if we will try to show an empty subfile, we will get session or device error. But I'm not getting that. So it means I have handled that error. And let me show you how I have done that. So I'm going inside my RPGLE program. We have to do the handling in the program only to handle this error. So this is first we are clearing, loading and displaying my subfile. I'll go to this display user detail subroutine first. So here my subfile is firstly visible. Then we are handling the handling how will be processing our option fields. So this is basically the entire process of the program. Now if I go up and over here, so here we can see in the display subroutine, we will firstly turn on all our indicators, the display indicator, DSP CTL indicator, right? The end indicator as well. Now here is this condition which is basically handling that session or device error. So what is happening over here? We are checking if our RRN is less than 1. So this what it means is we are checking if we have any records loaded in the buffer or not. So if it is less than 1, what will happen? We will just turn off our SFL DSP indicator. So what will happen? Our buffer won't be displayed. So this is the condition which is handling the session device error. So if I edit this program and comment out that logic, commenting out this logic, and now recompiling the program. So we can see now we have received the session and device error because we commented out that condition. Okay. So now I'm commenting it first. And now let's discuss the second scenario in which the session device in error can occur, which means defining the wrong indicator value. So here I have defined the SFL CTL indicator inside my indicator DS, whose value is 53, which is defined in my display file. But suppose by mistake I entered 56 in place of 53. And now if I will recompile my program and call it, I'll get session or device error. This is because my display file is referring indicator 53, but my program is referring 56. That is because we have got this error. So we have to make sure if we are using indicator DS, we are using the correct indicator's value. Okay. So that was all for today's session. So if you have any queries that we can discuss.
So yeah, hi everyone. If anyone have any doubts, so you can put in the Q&A box and ask the question so that Khushi can answer all of your questions. Okay, so we will wait 2 more minutes. If anyone having any doubts, so you can put. Otherwise, after 2 minutes, we can wrap up this session. Okay, I think there were no more questions. So we are good to wrap up this session. Thank you, Kushi. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.